Before I get to that, can you tell me how was your? So you had a 10-month MBA, right? You went to Singapore. You left your job here. You had an amazing job here. You left it. You went to Singapore. How was the initial first 2, 3, 4 months? When did the recruiting start, Namini? How was the coursework? When did you start seeing the companies on campus? Did you have to
Yeah,
network a lot? How was
yeah,
job search in Singapore? And this is
sure,
for a lot of people who are 8, 9 years behind you right now. They'll get to see a lot from this.
sure, sure, definitely. So I would actually like to say these are some of the things that I did, but there's also a lot of things I didn't do that I would have, I should have done. This is like me telling my older self, but I will try to include all of this, in my answer for this question. Uh, it's very rigorous, a 10-month program. I should say that. I think, yeah, sleepless nights. I'm sure, like most global MBA programs, students go through this. Uh, and first couple of weeks, of course, it's an emotional journey as well because you've moved away from family. It's completely new. You've never lived like this. You're a foreigner in a country. At least for me, it was the first time. Um, so yeah, just getting used to the way of living. There's a lot of assignments that are due even in week one. You've had your orientation. Along with that, there's a lot of coursework to finish, like pre-work that they call it. And then you reach on day one. I still remember 24th July. It all started. Um, and yeah, you have classes sometimes 5 6 days a week, a couple of classes in a week. You have submissions. um, they start case competitions from day one. If you're interested, you start preparing for it. um, and yeah, you start working with career services. So career services helps you, build your base in the sense that they have a format in place of how to approach the job market. Okay, this is how the resume looks like. This is how your pitch should be. These are the first 10 people, based on your experience, that you should speak to. And they will also assign you, industry specialists or coaches. They always have these programs, uh, universities, where they will say, okay, based on experience, we have this senior HR lady who can help you. Just go for a coffee talk and then start your conversations from there. And it's so fast paced. That's how Singapore works, and a lot of globalized countries like Singapore work, that you have to catch hold of these people before they go to work, after they're coming back from work, back to their home. You have to catch hold of these people and have these coffee chats and start working on the base that the career services has built for you. Okay, you'll have a couple of target companies that you have in mind, but again, that's based on how you viewed things from India, right? Like, you have to evolve over time. So you have a base resume, a story, a pitch in place, and then you start meeting people and you start refining it. You start figuring it out how it makes sense. Because if you have those 10 companies, those top 10 tech brands, FMCG brands, that's good. That's a good list to have. But in Singapore, you have to understand it's a very small island. So the headcount of companies is very restricted. And the roles that you want, there are brilliant roles here, but they're low in number. So you have to have that premise in place before approaching the market. This is something I also learned a couple of months later. um, but 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 that's how it is. You take time. Like, different people have a different pace. But that's how it works. So what I started doing is, eventually, it took me a while, I started opening up my search options. So I was very restricted to, okay, I will go in these uh, top FMCG companies, sorry, because they have the best HR practices and policies and diversity and inclusion. And I really like the CHRO. I like what she says on LinkedIn, and think like those. But there's so much more to it. There's a huge startup industry in Singapore that's doing amazing work. HR tech is very huge here. So if you want to, go into HR analytics or building like HR tools, um, for example, like webinar management is a thing now with Zoom and all these things coming up during COVID. There is so much you can do, and there's so many companies like this looking for people like you. You have to start reading up, exploring, and talking to these people. And you have to find time doing that in between everything else that's going on. And it is tiring, but that's how it is. And you start enjoying it because you are investing in your future and you're learning so much every day. Um, and that's how it is for me. You have to evolve. To be very honest, during my 10 months, I did not get a full-time offer. I only got it afterwards. So even after that, I had to do an internship. But by that time, I had built a network of these people that are new in HR. And because now I was narrowing down to, okay, this is the kind of strategic role I can do after MBA. Because a business partner role, I realized, allows you to work very closely with business, and you get to think like that. Whereas a lot of HR other roles can be quite operational in nature. So you have to find what works for you and where you can utilize whatever you've learned in the last 1 year. Um, so that's how my job looked like. There were challenges. Like I said, it's an emotional journey. So you have to manage that part as well and remain resilient. That there is light at the end of the tunnel. And yeah, just the fact, a lot of 50% of the MBA students got a job actually 6 months after the end of the program.
Wow.
So it's not during the program. And that's how the Singapore market, the cycle is also different, right? Because consulting companies hire during October. A lot of other companies start hiring next year in March after the financial cycle. So you have to wait for that cycle and get hold of those opportunities.
How does the cycle look like for internationals, Damini, in terms of visa? Like for how long are you allowed to stay? Is there a clock
Yeah,
ticking where you really, really have to find a job in order to not
yeah,
be thrown out of the country? How does that work?
sure. So for Singapore, for NTU specifically, because I know NUS and INSEAD works differently. INSEAD has two intakes. NUS has a longer 16-month program, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So for NTU, like we come in July, and the program is until like for 10 months. So by May, your classes are mostly over.
Okay.
But after that, if you don't have a job, if you have a job, your company will sponsor you when they apply for a employment pass. It's called an EP,
Okay.
and you get it within a couple of weeks. Again, it's a little tricky. If they want to hire a foreigner, they will have to justify that there was no local candidate that was fit for this role.
Okay.
And which is okay. A lot of countries do that and are doing that increasingly so that they can protect their own citizens in the job market. So that is the tricky part. But MBA students, I think, do not have a problem 98% of the time because we are still categorized in like highly skilled workers. So that's for people who've already got job offers, say between Jan to May. If after that you want to remain in the country, you can look for an internship and remain on your student pass until Jan next year. So you have another like 8 months. And in that, like you can do a full-time internship 5 days a week, and you can remain on your student pass. Some people also did like 2 or 3 internships. Some did like 6 months of internship. Depends, if they wanted to stay in the country. But even after that, if you don't have an internship, you can apply for a long-term pass because as a student or as an ex-employee in the country, you're allowed, you can apply for a long-term visa and stay in the country for 1 more year. So they do give you that 1 year to look for jobs if you want to. Yeah.
So it's not. So it's a very cooperative ecosystem
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think
Definitely.
6 months plus an additional 1 year, 1.5 years should be sufficient to find 5 jobs.
Yes.
I don't.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, yeah. And to get a hold of this market and to understand, I think generally any new market you enter, you 8 to 10 months you need, like you need to spend, looking for those kind of roles. And that's the period they give you. So I think it's fair.